What's the worst thing a doctor has ever said to you? This was overheard by a friend of mine when a neurosurgeon looked at the scan of her son's brain. There's no point in doing this one. This kid is done. I'm out of here. The good news is another neurosurgeon did the surgery, and the kid, who is now about 40, is perfectly fine today. Another story I heard while working in a hospital but cannot verify: a guy was gravely injured due to being shot in the face. There was no chance of recovery, and he was expected to die within a very short period of time. An intern walks in the room and says, "Is this the guy we are going to harvest the kidneys from?" The doomed patient was reported to have reacted by briefly bolting up into a sitting position. I hope it is not true, but they did get the kidneys. My doctor immediately said my symptoms were from an STD. Then doubled down saying I was lying about my sexual activity. Like, dude, I'm a grown-ass adult. If I thought I had an STD, I would have said so. I told him I thought I had a kidney infection. He said it didn't make sense. Did all the blood work, all negative for STDs? What was it? A damn kidney infection. Although he asked me before I left how I knew it was a kidney infection, I told him I had been watching Dr. House and the symptoms matched. I would constantly complain to my doctor that I couldn't breathe when I would walk and I would get shortness of breath. I was always tired and fatigued. I would get dizzy if I walked too long. She always brushed it off and told me to get more sleep or drink more water, even though I was getting plenty of both. Finally, I made an appointment to talk to her face to face, and she flat out just told me I was lazy and needed to exercise more. I was so embarrassed because I went with my husband, and she made me feel like I was just this lazy couch potato. I switched doctors, and my new doctor decided to do blood work, which is something that other ladies should have done in the first place, and found out I was severely anemic to the point of needing blood transfusions. I felt so much better after I got my infusions. Some people just shouldn't be practicing medicine. Every time I went to a doctor, they would look in my ears and complain they couldn't see anything because of the wax buildup. My mom would tell me I need to clean them more. At one point I was cleaning them with a tip almost every day. Finally saw a doctor who said she couldn't see anything but decided to do something about it. I had said how often I cleaned them, and she warned me against tips. We spent almost 2 hours cleaning my ears. My ears bled. She said it looked like I had had an ear infection in one ear for quite a while, but it was hidden under the wax. I refuse to use tips now and often have a doctor drain them for me. I had minor hearing loss in the ear that had the infection. It's amazing what having the right doctor can do for you. That I had bipolar disorder. I was medicated for it, it didn't work, so he kept increasing the dose. Eventually, I was taking 800 milligrams of Seroquel a day. I was so doped up I couldn't read. I dropped out of college. I couldn't sleep without it anymore, and when I tried, I stood up for almost a week. Had to move back with my father because I wasn't able to care for myself anymore. I tried to end it all a couple times. I ended up under observation. Doctor considered shock therapy. After almost 10 years, I had switched doctors, found a good therapist, and started the process to remove the meds. Turns out I'm not bipolar, I'm autistic. I don't have mania, but I have sensorial overload and hyperfocus. I act weird when put in chaotic situations because they overwhelm me. After 2 years of therapy, neurologist and psychiatrist appointments, and hundreds of pages of diaries and reports written, I finally got a proper diagnosis and I'm free from that. I'm not getting those 10 years back though. My mom died during that time, and I'm not getting her back either. I'm in college again, but the lost opportunities are gone forever. And the doctor? He's still out there, getting paid by the drug company to push their product. 3 years ago, I went for an eye test. The optician gave me a note and told me to go directly to an eye hospital. I gave the note to the reception at the eye hospital. The lady said, "Oh, right, come this way." I was taken right through the waiting room and put in a CT scanner within 20 minutes of arrival. Shortly after, a doctor came and said that there is something in the middle of your brain, and that an ambulance is going to take me to a neurosurgery specialist hospital. A few hours later I was having a drain put into my skull to get rid of built-up spinal fluid pooling behind my eyes. An MRI scan revealed a golf ball-sized cyst in the middle of my head that was causing problems. That was a pretty bad day. A doctor told my parents I had gotten used to all the attention after having an emergency appendectomy, and was only pretending to still be in excruciating pain. I was 7 at the time. What actually happened was they had left acid just around and it was literally burning tissue and creeping over to my liver. I spent a month in the hospital. A different doctor, who used to be a family friend, once told my sister, who was 6 years old, that Tourette's syndrome wasn't real, and she needed to stop faking it. I can't tell you how damaging that was, and what it took to help her feel secure with her tics again. I had my appendix taken out about 15 years ago. Went to the ER in horrible pain. They kept telling me it was female problems and would send me home. I went back again later that night, and all they wanted to discuss was my sexual history and insisted I was either pregnant or it was a cyst on my ovaries. I saw a gynecologist the next morning, but before my appointment with her I went into shock while taking a bath to ease the pain and had to be dragged out by my boyfriend at the time and his grandma. Went to my appointment, she diagnosed me with appendicitis immediately and sent me to the ER again. I went to a different one, but the doctor there kept telling me it was female problems as well. He told me to come back the next day for blood work and a CT scan. The next day, I came in for blood work and a CT, but at that point I could hardly walk. I was vomiting in the parking lot, and had lost control of all my other bodily functions in the lobby. I finally got the CT scan, and they were all like, "Oh, let's get you into surgery right now." I spent 7 days in the hospital to get 2 surgeries. My stomach was left open and was packed for 5 days because the infection was so bad. When I was in recovery, the sweet, kind surgeon who actually helped me was there and told me how lucky I was to be alive because I was septic, and the infection was basically eating away at my other organs. I have a scar from my belly button to my groin with about 50 staples, then got slapped with a $86,000 bill. Couple years ago, went to the doctor for headaches and stress. He sent me off for some tests and an MRI to find the cause of the headaches. I never have had headaches before. He told me to take a vacation and relax, that I was probably just overworking myself and stressed from my business. So took the whole family, wife, kids, and the dog, on a nice getaway to the Smoky Mountains and rented us a nice private cabin and had 5 whole days to relax and take in the beauty of the Smokies. We got to our cabin around 4 p.m. It was amazing, indoor pool, billiard table, and an arcade room all for ourselves. I woke up the next morning excited and the kids wanted to go kart and all that. Well, 8:30 a.m., I checked my email against my wife's advice, and I see an email from my doctor, with the results of my MRI. It read like this: "The results of your MRI have been reviewed by our medical team, and we have found a large brain tumor on all of the scans. Please contact us immediately to schedule more testing, and to speak with a neurosurgeon." Try relaxing on vacation after reading that. Edit to add some info. Luckily it was not cancer. The tumor was a macropituitary adenoma which caused hyperprolactinoma. Normal prolactin levels in a male should be below 12, mine were over 800. So, the tumor is producing prolactin and growing into my optic nerve. After 2 years of medication and the worst side effects imaginable, we finally got the medication doing the right thing, shrinking the tumor and straightening out my hormone levels. Neurosurgeon didn't want to operate me because she said the location of the tumor was in a spot where there was a chance surgery would paralyze me. At 30, I was rushed into hospital out of the blue with a heart infection and needing a valve replacing. The professor was absolutely brilliant, but she told me off the record that, "You may want to get any close family to come and visit and sort out any important paperwork, as it's not guaranteed that you'll wake up again." I obviously pulled through, but her honesty was reassuring. We also had these stupid personal televisions at each bed which cost about £2 an hour to watch. Money would seriously rack up as I was in there for weeks, but she gave me a pirated code so that I could watch it for free. In middle school, I was seeing a psychiatrist for generalized anxiety and panic disorder. I had been struggling with my weight because I was too anxious to eat, and at one point I was about 15 pounds underweight. I started taking antidepressants, and I gained weight once my anxiety started improving. One day, my psychiatrist brought me over to a scale so he could weigh me. He told me that I needed to watch what I was eating because I was starting to get fat. I was finally at the low end of a healthy weight after struggling for months, and it was such a blow to my self-esteem after all the progress I had made. I broke out in tears as soon as he said that. It crushed me. My mom yelled at him, and we walked out of his office and never came back. That I obviously didn't dislocate my knee, which I had put it back in myself before I went to ER, because it wasn't swollen out like a balloon. He then proceeded to push my knee down flat after it had seized in a bent position to put a bandage on it. I went back 2 days later because I had lost feeling in my toes as the knee had pinched nerves. They did an MRI, and I had a complete tear of the ligament. My bones were bright white from the bone fractures. I absolutely dislocated my knee, and the doctor just smashed my knee down and said off you go basically. I was newly clean and had to have most of my teeth pulled. The dental surgeon poked around at my healed-over track marks, then brought all his staff in to look at them. Then he began accusing me of taking cocaine and Xanax the night before and threatening he couldn't put me out because that. I literally did not understand what was happening. It was humiliating on a level I cannot explain. I was already humiliated and embarrassed at the shape of my mouth, and now this? All I could do was politely sit there and take it, wait for him to finish with all his little hate, and do his job. The doctor said I might have cancer and then walked out the door. For 20 minutes I sat there contemplating if I really have cancer, and what will my life be now. Nurse came in and was like, "Yeah, it's not cancer, just a blood clot." When I was 7, I slipped and hit my head on the door axle. I was rushed to the hospital because at that age, my skull was like butter. I was crying a lot, and one of the doctors told me, "Stop crying or I'll make it hurt more." After a horrific car accident, I was in unbearable pain. My doctor puts up my x-rays, looks down at me, and in the most condescending way said, "I hope you have a good attorney, you may never be the same again." I went from being in the best shape of my life to losing more than 50 pounds after the accident. I looked like a prisoner of war. After months of painful physical therapy, I eventually made it back.